Living with a stranger, my husband's brain injury.
2 years ago, a stranger came to live in my house. The stranger looked a lot like my husband. But while my husband was warm, funny, and caring, the stranger was cold, humorless, and distant. My husband had always worked hard, taken care of the bills, and fixed the things around the house that needed fixing. But the stranger left that all up to me. He didn't want to work. He didn't care how we would pay the rent. Some days he didn't even get out of bed. I no longer had a partner, and everything fell on my shoulders. My husband and I were blessed with a beautiful daughter, and it might sound cliche, but she was his world. The stranger simply ignored her, acted like she didn't even exist. It seemed like he only cared about himself. And worst of all, the stranger had a terrible temper. He would get angry at the smallest things, yell at me for hours because I simply asked him how he was feeling. His behavior frightened and embarrassed our daughter. There were even times I was scared he might hurt me physically. But fortunately, it never came to that. My husband had always been very responsible and social. We enjoyed spending time with each other and with our friends and family. But the stranger wanted me all to himself. He didn't want anyone to visit, and he wouldn't let me go out. I became more and more isolated. It seemed my whole life revolved around trying to hold our lives together, taking care of our family and taking care of this look-alike. It felt like I was a nurse and a parent to a grown man. On the rare occasions I did get to see my friends, I'd be desperate for them to ask me how I was feeling, how I was coping, for a shoulder to cry on. But they didn't see my pain. They only asked me about the stranger, how he was feeling, how he was coping. I felt like I was living in a bubble. I wanted to scream, to cry out, "What about me?" I wanted to run away from it all. But I didn't. I couldn't. I kept it all locked up inside and carried on. I hid everything behind a smile and tried to make things as normal as possible for our family. Because the truth is, my husband never left. The man who came to stay is not a stranger. He's the same man I met and fell in love with, the man I married and the father of our little girl. But 2 years ago, his life, our lives, changed forever. My husband is one of the 5.3 million Americans who live with the devastating consequences of traumatic brain injury. And I am one of the millions of Americans who live with a spouse or loved one who has experienced a traumatic brain injury. Overnight, I became my husband's caretaker. His brain injury affected his memory. He forgot how to do simple tasks, making him feel confused and helpless. And for the longest time, his feelings were trapped inside. But then, one day, he finally opened up to me about how he felt. How it seemed like he had an invisible rain cloud that followed him everywhere. And how the rain cloud made everything seem cold and gray. We became involved in the Brain Injury Association. He found support groups and he got help. I also found a support group where I met others who were going through similar situations in their lives. It really helped to be able to talk to other people who understood what I was going through. We still have ups and downs, and there are still days that I worry about the future. But with patience, love, and support, we are learning to adapt to our new lives together. Thank you for listening to my story.